Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Fuller. I am a registered dietitian. I work at the Valley Healthcare Clinic in Hawthorne and for the Community Health Department in Mahwah. I've always had an interest in the healing properties of food, and I'm really happy to be here today to share this information with you. I want to thank you so much for joining me virtually. I wish we could all do these lectures in person. However, it seems like there's other plans for us, so we're going to do it this way. Today, I'm going to walk you through all things health and sugar. We're going to explore sugar cravings, why they occur, what illnesses are connected to excess sugar intake, and what we can do to overcome cravings for better mental, emotional, and physical health. So, first, I want to discuss how much sugar is too much sugar. According to the USDA, our sweet tooth has increased 39% since 1950. The average American consumes 19 teaspoons of added sugar per day, which is the equivalent of 68 grams of sugar per day. It is normal to have some sugar in our diets. Definitely, absolutely. But how much is too much? The American Heart Association and the World Health Organization recommend limiting the amount of added sugars we consume to no more than 100 calories per day, which is the equivalent of about 6 teaspoons of sugar or 25 grams of sugar. And for men, it's 150 calories a day, which is about 9 teaspoons or 36 grams of sugar. There is a simple sugar calculation to figure out how many teaspoons of sugar there are or how many grams of sugar based on the teaspoons. And that equation is 1 teaspoon of sugar has 4 grams of sugar. So for example, if you're looking at a product nutrition fact label and the product has 16 grams of sugar, this is 4 teaspoons of sugar. You simply divide the 16 grams by 4 to get the teaspoon equivalent, okay? And this number of teaspoons is almost your limit for the day for one item if you're looking at the recommendation from the American Heart Association, right? Next, we're going to talk about cravings. There are 2 types of cravings, physical and emotional. Physical hunger comes on gradually. It can be satisfied with, various foods. Once you're full, you're likely to stop eating, and there should be no feelings of guilt involved, okay? Emotional hunger, on the other hand, is not true hunger, but cravings that are brought on by stress, sadness, boredom, loneliness, really anything, and sometimes it's just a habit. We're in the habit of wanting something sweet after a meal, or we just see it and we want it. Like when someone brings something into the office, it's sort of like an external trigger. Cravings can be an all-consuming feeling. It's like you can't think about anything else. Once you start thinking about those cookies, the cake, the chocolate ice cream in the freezer, you're not going to be satisfied until you have it. Sometimes these cravings can be so strong that we actually leave the house to go purchase this. It's very important to know that hunger comes from your stomach, cravings come from the brain. And if you want to get an idea of where your cravings are coming from, sometimes I recommend that you keep a food journal. It's simply writing down what time of day you're eating, what you're eating, and if you have any emotions associated with it to see what type of cravings or hunger it is that you're dealing with. Why is it that we crave sugar? I often hear people say, I need something sweet, I want something sweet, especially after a meal, and a lot of times it's after dinner. The truth is we don't really need it, we sort of want it. Food cravings are common. 97% of the population have them, so if you're dealing with cravings, it's very common. Sugar cravings tend to be at the top of the list, as well as carbs in general or salty foods. Recent research has clearly proven that sugar is biologically addictive. It's almost as much as 8 times more addictive than cocaine. So why do we have these intense cravings for something sweet? There are 6 key reasons for this, okay? So I'll go through them one by one. The first is poor eating habits, like not eating enough during the day, waiting too long in between meals, or simply skipping meals can create blood sugar swings and nutrient deficiencies. So the body wants quick fuel. It wants something now because it's trying to catch up from the deficit that we created earlier by skipping the meal or not eating. So meal components also have to be considered. If you have a carb-heavy meal, like a bowl of pasta, that's it, you might have a sugar spike afterwards, followed by a crash. You don't have true feelings of fullness from the carb-heavy meal either, so the crash afterwards may trigger a desire for more carbs. It's best to have a balanced meal, like having a vegetable, a protein, healthy fat, and a carb along, all together. Something like pasta with meatballs and a salad, okay? That would be a balanced meal. In addition, high sugar foods deplete our nutrient stores, okay? We need B vitamins, chromium, and magnesium to help manage our blood sugar. Stress and metabolize these foods, but sweets don't contain these nutrients. So we take them out of our storage and eventually our stores become depleted. Also, it's worth noting that high sugar foods usually displace whole foods, which further contributes to the deficiencies. So, meaning if you're eating a high sugar food, you're likely eating that rather than eating a more balanced meals. And the balanced meal you would contain the nutrients that you need, where the high sugar foods don't. Mild dehydration could also be a contributing factor to cravings. It can manifest as mild hunger, this dehydration, okay? So the first thing you do when you have a craving, I recommend drink a full glass of water, wait 15 to 20 minutes and see how you feel. Now that might sound ridiculous if you're having a craving to drink the water, but try it. It's worth a try, okay? Another reason why we might crave sugar is our lack of sleep. Don't run yourself ragged. Sleep is so important. We need more sleep, rest, relaxation. I know it's a lot of times easier said than done, but an adequate amount of sleep nightly is going to help you to be mentally stronger, to make the healthier food choices. What do I mean by more sleep? I'm talking 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Research actually shows that lack of sleep increases cravings. When you're tired, stressed, your body's going to crave energy, and usually it's in the form of sugar. We also need to manage our stress, because when we're stressed, that can also lead to craving sugar, okay? When we are stressed, cortisol levels go up, which can cause sugar cravings. So that's why we need to manage our stress. A high sodium diet. It's easy to forget about the salt factor, sodium, salt. I'm going to use interchangeably. The saltier our food, the bigger our sweet cravings are going to be. Your body's going to want to make up for the high sodium diet. Got to remember, when you're eating out, even though when the food seems plain, it's going to be saltier than you think. Okay, you don't have control over how much they're cooking with the salt, how much salt they're adding to the food, even if it seems plain. Try to limit processed foods, like in the form of chips or other salty snacks, because those are high in sodium. And I'm not saying don't go out to eat. We all like to go out to eat, but just being aware that you know that you may have more cravings when you do so, okay? So maybe skip the dessert at the restaurant, go home, have some naturally sweetened tea, some fruit, or dark chocolate, okay? Something that has a little less sugar in it. Okay. Also, an excess intake of a high sugar diet is a habit, okay? This creates a habit. So sometimes it isn't an emotional craving, sometimes it's simply a habit. So many people just have that habit. We need to recognize it as just that. When it becomes a habit, it starts to affect the brain. The more sugar you have, the more sugar you want. It's plain and simple. Sugar stimulates the brain's reward centers, through the neurotransmitter dopamine, exactly like other addictive drugs. Okay, eating sugar regularly changes the brain so it becomes more tolerant to it, and so more is needed to attain that same sugar high. Most people do have a moderate sweet tooth, myself included, not going to lie, but this reaction in the brain of building up a tolerance can create a sugar junkie behavior. Again, the more we have of sugar, the more we want of it. Okay, so when we go to Starbucks or any coffee shop and you see the muffins, the cakes, these external triggers feed into the desire for these treats, and it lights up this dopamine reward center. We have to ask ourselves, do I really want this? Am I really craving it? When we're hungry and haven't eaten enough during the day, it's harder to break the habit of giving into the sweets. If you eat consistently throughout the day, you're getting enough calories, meaning the right type of calories, at least our defenses are up and we're in a better place to change the habit, okay, and to recognize that it is a habit. Okay, the sugar cycle. Okay, this is what a sugar cycle looks like. Okay, you eat that delicious sugar and your body likes it because it has the addictive properties like we just talked about. Your blood sugar levels then spike and your brain releases dopamine. Insulin is then secreted to lower the sugar levels. Okay. Then high insulin levels cause fat storage and your body craves that lost sugar high. Okay. The low blood sugar causes increased appetite and cravings, and the process is repeated all over again. That's the sugar cycle. Next, we're going to talk about neurotransmitter imbalance. What are neurotransmitters? Neurotransmitters are the body's chemical messengers within the nervous system. I have some neurotransmitters listed here: endorphins, serotonin, GABA, catecholamines. Those are just some of them. But I want to talk about neurotransmitter imbalance as it relates to mood. Okay. Vitamins B6 and B12 are needed to create neurotransmitters. If you're not getting adequate amounts of these vitamins, it's linked to a higher incidence of depression. Both of these vitamins are essential for the creation of neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, which are chemicals that are known to affect mood, as listed here. So a deficiency of either of these vitamins could inhibit the production of these neurotransmitters. The thing is that foods high in sugar typically don't contain these vitamins, which then can lead to a deficiency. Okay. Catecholamines, dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine are natural stimulants. GABA is our natural tranquilizer, and endorphins are our natural painkillers. None of these neurotransmitters can be made out of anything but specific amino acids. So protein is the only source of amino acids. We need levels in our diet to be adequate. Levels of protein in our diet to be adequate. So 15 to 20% of our diet, our total calories, should come from protein. Each of the neurotransmitters, in addition to regulating mood in a particular way, also regulate appetite. So when we become deficient, not only can we develop negative moods, but we may lose track of our instinctive nutritional guidance systems, and we start to crave carbs instead. Okay. All right. Before I get into what we're drinking, I want to talk about something called the health halo. I don't have a slide on this, but I just want to briefly touch on it. Okay. Has anyone heard about a health halo, or what a health halo is? Don't worry, I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. Okay, so it's basically branding or packaging of an item based on a single claim. Okay, I'm talking about food items. So the claim may be that it is low in calories. I mean, we all see this. We read a package, it says low in calories or low in fats, low in sugar. this can lead us as consumers to think that this food is healthy based on this claim. Trust me, it's easy to fall into traps of the food industry. Many foods have a health halo. They're really not healthy when you actually look at the food and you look at the whole picture. An example, cookies. I've even seen some cookies being sold as protein cookies or things like that. Or it might make a claim it's gluten-free or vegan or low-fat. You might choose this without reading the ingredients or the nutrition facts simply because it has this buzzword on it, okay? The fact is, vegan or gluten-free does not mean that it's sugar-free or preservative-free. You gotta look at the full picture, read the ingredients, okay? Other examples of foods that might have a health halo. I mentioned protein cookies, but granola, protein bars, some cereals. I mean, I've seen some kids' cereals marketed like gluten-free, whole grain. Some things might be low in sugar or have protein, but they might have many preservatives, which does not make them a health food, okay? We live in a time, our lives are busy. It's okay to have some processed foods in our diet, but just remember this health halo. Get in the habit of reading the ingredient list and nutrition facts lists, okay? And be aware that buzzwords like gluten-free, vegan, high protein doesn't always necessarily mean healthy, okay? Don't buy food based on one health claim. Next, now we'll get into, do you know what you're drinking? I mean, there are many drinks high in sugar, right? Remember at the beginning how many teaspoons we're supposed to have of sugar a day? It's about 6 for men, 6 for women and 9 for men. There are beverages out there that contain more sugar than you might think. You might not even thought to think about how much sugar is in a drink. For instance, there's something called vitamin water. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's a very popular drink. A lot of convenience stores have it. Some of these vitamin waters have up to 8 teaspoons of sugar. That's 32 grams of sugar. You might think vitamin water is healthy because it has that word vitamin in it, but again, that doesn't make it healthy. What about coffee drinkers? Anyone a fan of coffee drinks? How many teaspoons of sugar do you think is in a vanilla chai latte from Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts for that matter? It could be up to 10 to 12 teaspoons. On this slide, I have some favorite coffee drinks from some popular coffee places, Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. Not sure you've ever heard of them. But you can see some of these drinks range from 28 grams to 50 grams of sugar. That's 7 to 13 teaspoons of sugar in one single drink. Don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of some of these. It's like coffee candy. I myself used to always have my sugar. I always used to have my coffee with sugar, 2 to 3 teaspoons of sugar, and I never thought I'd be able to decrease that habit or cut it out entirely. I was on a mission. It wasn't easy at first, but it was doable. I'm not saying take your coffee the way you like it, say it's 4 teaspoons of sugar and suddenly go down to 0. No, you have to decrease it gradually and try to cut back. And I'm telling you, it will work. And if you limit the amount of these drinks that you're having per week, you're not only going to save on the amount of sugar you're having in your diet, but you're going to save on money because we all know that some of these drinks are outrageously overpriced. But that's also for another lecture. What about alcohol? Anyone out there drink alcohol? We may forget about sugar being in alcohol, but it is, as we can see on this slide here. Obvious drinks that have a lot of sugar are ones with mixers like pina coladas or mojitos, while we look at spirits like the gin, rum, whiskey, vodka things. They have no sugar because the sugar is eliminated during distillation. However, there is a caveat. If you start adding mixers to these spirits like Coke or ginger ale, then there's going to be sugar, okay? If you drink it with just club soda or seltzer, it'll remain at no sugar. Beer is moderately high in sugar. Wine is a little low. However, with wine, the serving suggestion is 5 ounces. The problem is most people either do not stick to 5 ounces or we have more than one glass of wine. Okay, let's look at local day of eating for someone. And this is not even including dinner, okay? This might, at first you might eat this and think it's seemingly healthy. You start your day at Starbucks, you get your, vanilla chai latte. Then you get to the office, or even before you leave, you have some cereal. For lunch, you have a salad with honey mustard dressing and a yogurt, and your drink is a vitamin water. Again, this is not including dinner or maybe even a snack after dinner, and you're already up to 70 grams of sugar just with this. That's 13.5 teaspoons. Okay, again, this is not even counting dinner. So you're not realizing how much sugar, added sugar, are in things until you start really looking at the labels and becoming aware, okay? So there are benefits of reducing sugar. Now, this is what I want to talk about now. I started talking a little bit about the effects of sugar on our mood and the connection to our neurotransmitters. But why else should we moderate our intake? What are the health risks associated with a diet high in sugar? If we can moderate sugar, we can reduce the risk of many of these things listed, okay? As you can see, reducing our sugar may reduce some of these. Who wouldn't like to lower their anxiety, mood swings, depression, headaches, diabetes, weight gain, fatigue, eczema, okay? As early as 1957, John Yudkin, a professor of nutrition at Queen Elizabeth College in London, began arguing that when it came to heart disease and other chronic ailments, it was sugar, not fat, that was the problem in our diet. Okay, this has been confirmed over the years, and we know now that our effort to cut back on fat backfired, okay, because we replaced it with low-fat junk food that added more calories and sugar to our diet. So in the 90s, if you remember those foods where it was like fat-free, low-fat, all those snack foods like Snackwells, I remember buying those. They took out the fat, but they added sugar, okay? So how does sugar lead to some of these things? I'll talk a little bit about diabetes and prediabetes. There are over 420 million people in the world with type 2 diabetes, and it's going up. By 2025, it's estimated that 1 in 10 people will have type 2 diabetes. When we think about our vital organs, one of the most vital organs is our pancreas, okay? It's tucked behind the stomach, and the pancreas plays a key role in digestion and glucose control, or blood sugar control, however, same thing. The pancreas produces enzymes that digest our food, and it also secretes the hormone insulin, which is what is responsible for moving the glucose or the sugar in our blood into the muscle and into the muscle cells, and as well as into other tissues for use as energy. Anytime we eat sugar or carbohydrates, when it breaks down during digestion, it breaks down into glucose, okay? This glucose then goes into your bloodstream, and it's then that beta cells in the pancreas are triggered. They're told to release the hormone insulin, which is sent into the blood to take the glucose and move it into our muscles and other tissues, okay, or to be stored into the liver. This happens because we don't want to have that extra glucose or sugar around in the blood, okay? So imagine you're having a bowl of pasta as your meal. It's going to be a large pool of glucose once it's been digested in the blood, once it's been digested, okay? You're going to get a quick spike in blood sugar because there's nothing else in the meal to help slow down the absorption of all of those carbohydrates, okay? If, however, your meal is more balanced, like we talked earlier, Say you add meatballs, which is some protein and fat, and you have some salad, which is fiber. In addition to the pasta, the blood sugar spike is going to be more gradual, okay? The protein in the meat and the fiber in the salad is going to slow down the digestion of the pasta, so your blood sugar is not going to have that spike. In addition, you might find that you won't be eating as much pasta because you're going to have the salad and you're going to have the meatballs, and that'll fill you up, okay? Carbs alone don't keep us full for very long, and it takes a lot of carbs to fill us up in the first place, okay? Especially if it's the only thing on the plate. The issue is not having that bowl of pasta on its own once in a while. The issue is having a meal like that all too often, where your meal is just only carbs, okay? Even looking at breakfast, a lot of people, it's just carbs, a bowl of cereal, you know? A lot of people are overworking the pancreas, not only with our sweets, but refined carbs or carb-heavy meals, overeating in general, as well as alcohol. So like anything else that gets overworked, the parts start to wear out, okay? So as the mechanisms for secreting insulin to get the sugar out of the blood and into our cells becomes more and more insufficient, blood sugar levels are going to rise and they'll stay high for longer periods of time. This is called what we call insulin resistance, which can eventually lead to diabetes if it's not addressed with lifestyle change and diet. There is some good news, is that you can reverse this insulin resistance. Again, dietary and lifestyle changes can help it, especially when it's caught early, okay? Another benefit of reducing sugar intake in our diet is the heart disease connection. Excess sugar can increase the overall risk for heart disease. Conditions associated with excess sugar consumption like diabetes and being overweight are already known risk factors for heart disease, okay? When you eat excess sugar, the extra insulin causes your arterial walls to grow faster than normal and they get tense, which adds stress to your heart. Excess sugar in the diet may turn into triglycerides and are stored in fat cells throughout the body, which also increases the risk for heart disease. We're going to talk more about the liver later, but high amounts of sugar overload the liver, which can lead to a greater accumulation of fat in the liver, which can turn into fatty liver disease, which is a contributor to diabetes, and this also raises your risk for heart disease, okay? Consuming too much added sugar can raise blood pressure, increase chronic inflammation, both of which are pathways to heart disease, okay? Sugar and gut health, another benefit of decreasing sugar, okay? The gastrointestinal tract is the very core of health. Your gut microbiome, and when I talk about your microbiome, I'm talking about all the microbes, the bacterial and microorganisms in your gut. Your gut microbiome activity influences your immune responses, and it plays a role in the development of a number of diseases, including obesity, cancer, and arthritis, just to name a few. Sugar disrupts the gut microbiome because it provides fuel for the unhealthy bacteria to grow. The digestive health is so important, and it's an important topic because 70% of our immune system is in and around our gastrointestinal tract. We have both good and bad bacteria in our GI tract, okay? The health of our digestive system and immune system relies heavily on having a balance, meaning enough good bacteria to fight off harmful pathogens and bacteria. The way our good pathogen fighting bacteria get killed off is with things like too much antibiotic use, certain medications, toxins and foods, the environment, and an unbalanced diet, which is high in sugar and processed foods. Sugar provides the fuel for the unhealthy bacteria to grow. It feeds on it. which commonly leads to bacterial overgrowth, okay? The good bacteria, on the other hand, feed on fiber-rich foods like that come from fruits and vegetables. Okay, the bad bacteria can promote things like allergies, eczema, weight gain, irritable bowel syndrome, headaches, and brain fog, the stuff listed here. Okay, with this gut imbalance, basically the lining of the small intestine becomes compromised. It actually becomes permeable, meaning things can get through it when things are not supposed to get through it. And then your immune system can be exposed to foreign particles from food, bacteria, and other microbes that, because the small intestine becomes permeable, these things go through it, like bacteria. Then this activates an immune response that can lead to food sensitivities, irritable bowel syndrome, arthritis, headaches, anxiety, eczema, some of the things I listed here. The immune system in the bowels acts like a wall to keep out harmful pathogens. Any break in this wall can allow toxins, viruses, bacteria to gain access to the body, creating a chronic inflammatory state. Okay, we've got to keep our gut healthy in order for us to be healthy. Now we're going to talk about sugar in the liver. I briefly mentioned it earlier, but it's another benefit of decreasing sugar in the diet. The effect of sugar on our liver is similar to alcohol's effect on the liver. Isn't that interesting to think about that? High doses of sugar can make the liver go into overdrive, which can lead to inflammation, which leads to production of free radicals, which can damage cells in the body. Okay. Too much fructose, which is a natural sugar that's often added in processed foods, is a key player in the development of something called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, where fat accumulates inside the liver. The liver uses fructose to create fat. If you give the liver enough fructose, tiny fat droplets can actually start to accumulate in the liver cells. When this occurs, it's called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Again, this can be reversed if you catch it early enough. We can reverse some of the damage with lifestyle change and diet, okay? The weight gain connection. Okay, I just take a little sip of water. Talking too much. All right, weight gain connection. Benefits of reducing sugar in the diet. Okay, too many calories from any source will be stored as fat if it's not burned, okay? But the lack of other nutrients in sugar actually makes it much easier to eat lots of it without feeling full, okay? Foods rich in that have a lot of fiber in it, fat and protein, make us feel full. Sugar is going to give you the calories, but you're not going to get that feeling that you've had enough to eat. That's why it's easier to gain weight when you're eating calorically dense foods, because it's not providing anything but calories, empty calories. And insatiable hunger is another way sugar leads to weight gain. Too much fructose consumption has been linked to an increase in a condition called leptin resistance, okay? Leptin is a hormone in your body that tells you when you've had enough food. In leptin resistance, this I'm full signal that you get is never received. So you can continue to eat, which will then lead to weight gain. High sugar foods, especially fructose, can increase our levels of something called ghrelin, another hormone. And it's a hormone that stimulates appetite and increases cravings, all of which can lead to weight gain. Okay. Excess glucose above storage capacity will be stored as fat. That's another important point. Okay. Now, types of sugars. There are many different types of sugars. The column on the left, I'm sure we've heard of many of these: white sugar, brown sugar, rice syrup, corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, maple syrup, honey. Those are all types of sugars, okay? Then on the right, We have sugar alcohol. A sugar alcohol is something like sorbitol, xylitol. It's an incompletely absorbed carbohydrate. Because they're incompletely absorbed, you only get some of the calories from them, and your blood sugar doesn't go up as if you had the same amount of sweetness from a regular sugar, okay? Stevia is an herb, and unlike sugar, it does not trigger a rise in blood sugar. You won't get a sudden burst of energy like you do with sugar that some people get, and which is also can be followed by fatigue and almost a need for another fix of sugar. Stevia doesn't have that. Most importantly, it doesn't feed yeast or other microorganisms. Okay, it may take some getting used to the flavor, but you know, it's worth switching to. Monk fruit is an extract from the monk fruit. It's a fruit that's native to China and Thailand. It has 0 calories. The FDA has approved the extract. It doesn't raise blood sugar like regular table sugar. The only thing is that it's often combined with other sweeteners, or it's combined with things like sugar and molasses. So the other sweeteners, it can be mixed with, I've tried monk fruit myself. I have bought a brand, I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, but I think it's Lakanto. That's mixed with erythritol. However, some brands mix it with sugar and molasses. If it's mixed with one of those, then it's no longer calorie free and it can raise the blood sugar. So you want to read the label. I have tried many different sugar substitutes, and I will say for me personally, monk fruit sweeteners are the most similar in taste to regular sugar. It's best to avoid the artificial sweeteners like saccharin, aspartame, sucralose, because they can actually trigger more cravings. Some studies have shown. Okay. Hidden sugars. Oh, I love this. So you got to become a label reader. Make it a habit to read labels for anything packaged to find these hidden sugars. I'm telling you, read the labels. Cereal, like it's listed here, yogurt, granola bars, power bars, salad dressing, even tomato sauce, pretty much anything that comes in a package, read the label. And yes, at first it's going to take you a little extra time at the grocery store to become used to the habit of reading the labels, but once you've read labels of things you're going to buy, you already know what's in it, okay? When in doubt, pick it up, read the label. Companies like to hide sugar by calling them different things. Agave, sucrose, glucose. Most of the stuff that if you read something and it ends in that OSE, that's usually a sugar derivative. Corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, brown rice syrup. Brown rice syrup might sound fancy or that it's almost healthy because it's got the brown rice, but it's basically just another term for sugar, okay? Tips to curb our sweet tooth. All right, starting with number 1. And also, now that we have an idea of where our cravings come from, how do we control them? It's definitely easy to give in to them, but now we know the risks of what can happen if we have too much sugar in our diet, right? When we form new habits, changing the way we eat takes time and patience, so be kind to yourself. Don't get frustrated. Our biggest obstacles are our attachment or addiction to certain foods and behaviors, or that it's just a habit, okay? So the tips to curb our cravings, number 1, stay hydrated. Easy, simple, okay? Dehydration, like I mentioned before, can manifest itself as mild hunger. So if you have a craving, drink a full glass of water. Like I said, wait 15 to 20 minutes, or some naturally sweetened tea. Again, it's an easy, simple thing. It might not work, but it's worth a try, right? Balanced meals. We talked about this twice already. I'm going to talk about it again. If you eat enough of the right things, balanced meals, meaning a protein, a veggie, a healthy fat, healthy carbs, you're going to be in a better place to change the habit. Eating healthy proteins in the morning too and throughout the day is key to managing cravings. Now, you might say, what kind of protein in the morning, aside from eggs or egg whites, peanut butter, cottage cheese, plain yogurt. Those are all have protein in them, okay? A good exercise to get in the habit of is to start to write down everything you're eating and drinking. And when you do, like a food journal, as I mentioned before, you can look to see, do your meals have enough protein? Are they balanced? Are you waiting too long in between meals? What are you drinking? What's your lifestyle like? The emotions attached to the foods, okay? You take the time to take care of yourself, be prepared with the right foods, okay? Labels, labels, labels. Read those labels. Beware of the health halo. Find those hidden sugars. Remember, ingredients are listed on the label in order of descending predominance. So if any form of sugar appears in like the first 3 ingredients, it's likely to be high in sugar. It might be better to leave that one on the shelf. And also, don't assume something's healthy just because it says natural, light, vegan, gluten-free. Remember the health halo and be aware of it. Be prepared with replacements for your sweets, okay? Naturally sweetened teas, fruit, dark chocolate. When I say dark chocolate, I'm like talking 70 to 80%, okay? You might be the type of person that needs to get rid of all of the trigger foods at home and replace the sweets with something healthier. That you might have to do that. You might find that you still want these things, but be patient, and they will cease to have control over your mind. You'll start to be able to enjoy them in moderation as opposed to needing them all the time, okay? Exercise. If you're not exercising already, I always recommend speaking to your doctor to make sure it's okay to start an exercise program, but exercise can help balance your blood sugar levels, boost your energy, help with stress reduction. Your body and mind will simply function better, even if it's 10 to 15 minutes a day, even if it's going for a walk, okay? It doesn't have to be 30 minutes of high intensity cardio, okay? Lack of sleep, like we said earlier, can increase cravings. When you're tired or stressed, your body will often crave energy in the form of sugar. So get those 7 to 8 hours of sleep. It's important. Stress management. We need to manage our stress. When stressed, our cortisol levels go up, making us crave sugar. Distractions. Another strategy to reduce our cravings is have a go-to distraction, okay? Try and set this up ahead of time. We're busy during the day, it's time to go home, relax in front of the TV, we're starting to look for our ice creams, our cookies, our cakes, our candy. It's our time to reward ourselves at the end of a long day. Oh, I deserve it, right? We all say that to ourselves. It's a common habit. Here we need to break these patterns, okay? It depends on the individual. Different strategies are going to work for different people, but try to set up small goals for yourself. Like, think about when a craving comes on, what can I distract myself with it? Could it be in something that doesn't involve food? Maybe you're someone who could go for a walk, get outside, do some gardening, listen to music, call a friend. It's a lost art, calling friends on the phone. Mostly now we're just texting, so maybe call someone. Clean out a closet, find something to distract yourself. Also, the 80-20 rule. This means 80% of the time you're making the best and healthiest choices you can. And 28% of the time you're a little more indulgent, okay? Factor in 1 or 2 weekly sweets so you're not feeling like you're depriving yourself. The goal here is we're not striving for perfection, because that does not exist. The goal is to be consistent, so you're going to feel good and that you can sustain the way you eat without making it a stressful situation. And we don't want to feel guilty about what we eat. This is not about feeling guilty about our food choices. You know, if you eat a sweet and you're thinking, oh, I shouldn't have eaten that, remove the guilt from it. Every day is a new day. We can make different choices tomorrow. Okay, sweet swaps. Okay, here are some sweet swaps, things to eat to help curb your sweet tooth, okay? Things that you can have at home, plain yogurt with some fruit and a drizzle of honey, apple slices or whatever fruit you'd like, a banana with maybe with some kind of nut butter. Dates are naturally sweet, they're amazing. Cut open a date, put some kind of nut butter in it, pop that in, like dark chocolate, maybe it's a rice cake with some nut butter of your choice and maybe a drizzle of honey or a little bit of jelly or jam. These are some sweet swaps that you can, think of choosing to have at home instead of a sweet. Okay. Examples of snacks that also include a little bit of a protein, maybe some frozen grapes with a few nuts. The yogurt has protein in it, so that could also help. Maybe a small sandwich with a whole wheat bread, some turkey, a slice of avocado, hard-boiled eggs. Those are some high protein snacks. These could also curb your sweet tooth. Hard-boiled eggs with maybe a slice of whole wheat toast, cottage cheese and fruit, hummus with some crackers or some mini carrots. Being prepared is the key to improving our eating habits, okay? So some of the things I mentioned that weren't on the list, write those down, prepare to have them at home, boil eggs ahead of time. You have some in the fridge, that way you can slice them up on maybe a rice cake or whole wheat toast. Keeping real foods around and preparing them ahead of time so they're readily available. Fruit, veggies, nuts, nut butters. Take a few minutes to plan, put snacks aside. It's going to save you time. It's going to save you money. Okay, you're going to have it readily available. The top 4 steps for kicking our sugar habits. Okay. Number 1, the 80-20 rule. We just talked about this. You want something sweet after dinner, have water. Have some water, use your replacement snacks as often as you can, the ones we just talked about it. And once in a while, have that sweet. Don't beat yourself up. If you give in to your cravings, don't feel guilty about it. We're all human. I think this is the 4th time I'm going to talk about having balanced meals. Try and have protein with all your meals, including breakfast. Like I said, eggs, nut butters, nuts, cottage cheese, they all contain protein in it. It's important to get some protein in it because it's going to make you feel fuller rather than just having that longer rather than just having that cereal. And it's also not going to, it's going to slow down the digestion of any carbohydrates you're having. So you're not going to get the sugar spike. All right. Water, water, and more water. Making sure you're drinking enough water daily. Most of us are not drinking enough water. A simple calculation to do if you're not sure about how much water you should be drinking a day. Take your body weight and cut it in half. Take your body weight in pounds, cut it in half. So if you're 150 pounds in half, that would be 75. That's about how many ounces a day you should be having in water. 120 pounds, you should be having about 60 ounces. 100 pounds, about 50 ounces. So you get the idea. Again, it's not about if you don't drink much water during the day. I won't say start drinking the full 75 ounces all at once in one day. Gradually work yourself up. Get a water bottle. There's probably an app on your phone that you can have to alert you to drink more water. There's an app for everything. The last is stress management. That's another step for kicking our sugar habits, okay? Stress management, taking care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. Remember, we can't bring our best self to the world unless we're taking care of ourselves first. The fast pace of life and stress is always going to be there. We become drained, exhausted. Our first comfort is usually food or some kind of other vice, but this is just going to perpetuate the problem. We need to find ways to relax, making sure we're getting enough sleep, exercise, having a hobby, having time with friends, taking a day off, a massage, a book, time in nature, even just sit for a few minutes to relax, okay? Sugar will never help you feel your best. Sugar will never motivate you. It's not going to give you more sustained energy. It's not going to give you less anxiety, better sleep, better skin, or more productivity. Okay? Be kind to yourself. Be gentle to yourself. Remember, we're not striving for perfection, because that does not exist. Making small changes to try and reduce the sugar in your diet is the way to go. Right away, you can get a pad of paper, start writing what you're eating, keep a food journal, and figure out where you can tweak your diet. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it. I hope you've learned something today, and thank you for joining.